Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to imagine a scenario that might sound totally like a Hollywood movie, but is actually rooted in cold, hard geographical reality. Imagine a situation where the world's most critical economic artery, literally the single most important vein of global trade, is suddenly, violently severed. Today, we're going to unpack exactly how that went down during the massive geopolitical shockwaves of 2026.
Now, to really grasp how this happened, we've got to look at the physical geography. Because honestly, the scale here is absolutely staggering. We're talking about a waterway that is merely 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. I mean, that's shorter than running a standard marathon. To put that into perspective, it's so incredibly narrow that on a clear sunny day, you can actually stand on one shore and clearly see the landmass on the exact opposite side.
But wait, it gets crazier, because the usable space is actually way tighter than that. While the water itself spans 21 miles, the actual safe shipping lanes inside the strait are vastly smaller. We're looking at lanes merely 2 miles wide in each direction. 2 miles! It's an incredibly tight, highly congested bottleneck.
And the contrast between that tiny stretch of water and the staggering volume of energy moving through it is just extreme. Through those 2-mile wide lanes, 21 million barrels of crude oil pass every single day, along with massive amounts of liquefied natural gas. To put 21 million barrels in perspective, that's enough to fill over 1,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools with crude oil every single day, just squeezing through this tiny pinhole of the ocean. It represents a full 20% of the daily global oil supply.
For decades, the closure of this choke point was treated as this theoretical lingering threat. But on March 4, 2026, the theoretical became a devastating reality. The strait was entirely shut down. This vital passage closed, permanently altering the global economy in an absolute instant.
Part 1. The ultimate global choke point.
So, to truly understand the sheer gravity of that closure, we need to examine the fragile status quo that existed right before the crisis, and exactly why this specific spot on the map is globally indispensable. The Strait of Hormuz sits right between Iran to the north and Oman to the south. It is the absolute sole maritime exit route connecting the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and subsequently to the rest of the world. Because of this geography, every single oil tanker leaving Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar has absolutely no other way out. It handles more energy trade than anywhere else on Earth, a fact that actually led the International Energy Agency to label it the world's most important oil transit choke point.
Part 2. Closing the strait. So how did this globally vital artery actually get shut down? Well, it didn't happen overnight, but looking at the timeline, the military escalation was blindingly fast. On February 28th, Operation Epic Fury began, involving 900 initial strikes by the US and Israel on Iran within a 12-hour window. Almost immediately, within hours, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, began an immediate retaliation by targeting ships right in the Persian Gulf. There were at least 10 ship attacks reported in just that first week. This rapid sequence culminated on March 4th, when Iran officially declared the Strait of Hormuz closed, heavily warning that any ship attempting to pass would be attacked.
And they utilized specific, highly effective military tactics to enforce this closure. First up, sea mines were laid directly across those narrow 2-mile shipping lanes we just talked about. Second, IRGC speedboats actively patrolled the waters to enforce the blockade. And third, Iranian naval forces were actively boarding and capturing merchant ships. They effectively took a commercial trade route and turned it into an active war zone.
And the immediate toll wasn't just economic, it was profoundly human. In just the very first days of the crisis, the impact on merchant shipping was stark. At least 17 ships were damaged. 7 were entirely abandoned by their crews. 2 ships were actively captured, and tragically, 12 sailors were reported killed or missing. It was a severe, immediate halting of global trade.
Part 3. The global oil shock. The physical closure of the waterway was really just the first domino to fall. The market panic was instantaneous. Analysts immediately began forecasting that crude oil prices could reach triple digits, projecting right up to $100 per barrel. And listen, this wasn't just a scary number blinking on a trading screen, it carried a very real projection of adding a massive 0.8% jump to global inflation, almost immediately. But the fastest, hardest impacts? Those hit Asia. Countries like Japan, South Korea, China, and India import almost all of their oil right through the Strait of Hormuz. Within days, we saw genuine panic. I mean, there was actual panic buying at petrol stations in Vietnam. Japan and China were forced to rapidly release their strategic petroleum reserves just to cope, and South Korea had to enter urgent government rationing discussions.
To really understand the sheer scale of this, we just have to look at what the International Energy Agency said. The head of the IEA stated that the situation caused by this war was the greatest global energy security challenge in history. Literally in history. It completely eclipsed all previous energy shocks in severity, making it more serious than the 1973 Arab oil embargo and even more serious than the 1990 Gulf War.
Part 4. The military retaliation.
Naturally, an economic disruption of this massive magnitude prompted a huge response. On April 13, 2026, the United States executed a dual-pronged strategy as they attempted to reopen this globally vital waterway. American warships positioned themselves to initiate a full naval blockade of Iranian ports, squarely aiming to strangle Iran's ability to export. Simultaneously, U.S. forces launched an aggressive aerial campaign. This involved targeted strikes on IRGC naval bases, hitting coastal missile launch sites, and the systematic destruction of radar and communication systems all along the coast.
However, military action didn't just wave a magic wand and solve the logistical nightmare. Even after a ceasefire was announced on April 8th, the underlying danger strongly remained. The IRGC continued to harass ships, there were still lingering sea mines bobbing in the water waiting to be cleared, and fundamentally, the trust of the shipping companies was completely broken. Consequently, shipping traffic through the strait remained way below its pre-war levels.
Part 5. The everyday impact.
You know, it is so easy to get lost in the macro geopolitics here, right? The naval blockades, the millions of barrels of oil. But I want you to ask yourself, how does a conflict 21 miles wide, on the exact opposite side of the planet, actually change your daily reality? Well, the truth is, it absolutely does. It directly bridges the gap between these massive global energy markets and your everyday wallet.
Because when a vital supply chain like this breaks, literally everything becomes more expensive. We aren't just talking about a spike in petrol prices across Europe or soaring gas prices in the US. Oil is the baseline ingredient for modern life. Because of this disruption, we saw unexpected, rapid cost increases in everyday plastics, life-saving medicines, agricultural fertilizer, and even essential food packaging. When crude oil stops flowing, the price of practically your entire daily routine shoots up.
It all comes down to this really stark reality. One country, one waterway, 21 miles wide, can hold the entire global economy hostage. Let the true gravity of that profound vulnerability resonate for a second. It's a striking, kind of terrifying reminder of how interconnected and honestly how fragile our modern world truly is.
In the aftermath, the world learned a very harsh lesson, resulting in a desperate scramble for alternative routes. Countries are rushing to establish new pipelines, secure new suppliers, and develop entirely new geopolitical strategies. But the harsh truth? The vulnerability remains. As long as 20% of the world's oil is forced to rely on passing through those 21 miles of water, the global risk endures.
Which leaves us with one final, incredibly pressing question. Will the Strait of Hormuz be used as a weapon again? It is a question that is absolutely going to define the next decade of energy security. Think about that, and make sure you join us for the next part of our explainer, where we're going to reveal exactly why Pakistan became the completely unexpected key to ending this war. Until then, keep questioning the world around you.